Well, thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 30th of November, 2025. We would normally regard this as the Entrepreneurship Month. A lot of entrepreneurship activities will be taking place during this month. And I have noted that elsewhere in South Africa and across the world, there's been lots of activities celebrating this particular fit of entrepreneurship, which is a very important thing to do because our world needs entrepreneurs. In our world, as I always say, does not need a lot of politicians. I think we've got a lot more now, or maybe people who are just in entertainment. We need people who are going to be in entertainment, but being part of the business and ensuring that we get all those graduates employed. We know that lots of people are really looking for jobs and looking for opportunities of various sorts, and we do need to be very much active in assisting a lot of people to really get themselves economically emancipated. I don't want to waste much time. I've got two of my guests today. Bekhuluma nathi, bekhuluma ngezinto engicabanga ukuthi zibalulekile, kakhulukazi u-double thinta imali. Njengoba sengishilo ukuthi sinomnumzane uZondi okhona phakathi kwethu ozokhuluma nathi ngo-double thinta imali ekuzameni ukusiza abantu ukuthi bafundeke. Siyazi ukuthi sinabantu noma sinizizinda institutions that fund entrepreneurs right across the spectrum. The ecosystem of such institutions include developmental fund institutions, your NAFC, which is set for now, the IDC, PIC, you name it. And we are going to be inviting some of those people to really come and be part of how they can be able to help us get our businesses funded. We've done that before, but we'll continue to do it because we really believe that people ought to be funded. The environment here in South Africa, particularly in South Africa, I know we've got a lot of friends and colleagues from other countries, is not very helpful to assisting a lot of our entrepreneurs and people who need the funding. Money is weaponized sometimes against us as people who are trying to get into the space, and we don't find it easy to get in there. But if we've got other people other than DFI's private funders who are saying we're prepared to give you assistance and help you get funding, we really welcome those people. That's why today I've got Mr. Zondi, who is going to be sharing with us how can they assist entrepreneurs who want to be funded. Can they go beyond South Africa into other African countries? Mr. Zondi, we've got people who are spread right across some parts of the continent. There will be few people, sprinkles of people from Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, a few from the US, Swatini, etc., etc. So, but this is your stage. We've got literally, say, 15 minutes or so to just give us your company profile and what to do exactly, where you come from. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I don't know whether I should use the video or the audio only.
Yeah, please use the video because we do record and would love to see you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I wasn't able to display on my side here because I'm using my phone. I thought that Mr. Klaba, you were able to display for me, but it's not a problem. I've got the presentation. Okay. So my name is Wanda Zondi of Imbewu Consultant. So I've met Ubab recently, and I've highlighted to him what we do. So he allowed me the opportunity to speak to the network of his entrepreneurs and all stuff. Amen. Yeah, so like I said, we are based in Johannesburg, but we are spread all over. Okay. So first thing that I want to highlight, Imbewu Consultant is not a funder, it's a facilitator. So we facilitate funding for entrepreneurs. One of the challenge for entrepreneurs is access to funding, access to markets. So we try to bring a solution to access to funding. So our model is divided, I think, into three things. One, I'll talk about purchase orders and invoicing. And then secondly, I'm going to talk about trade finance solution. And then thirdly, I will speak about funding loans. Anyone who doesn't fall under these categories that I've mentioned, and see how we can help you. Like I said, we are facilitators, so we've got partners in South Africa and around the world that are the ones who funds you. Okay, so let me start with purchase order funding. Purchase order funding, as we know, that mostly it's PO from the government institution, SOEs, or the municipality, or the provincial or national government, even the listed companies as well. We find the recognized companies, okay? It might not be listed private, but it must be recognizable. Like, for instance, let's say that a Standard Bank, ABSA, let's say Vodacom, and all those things. So we take those purchase orders. The minimum that we fund is 250,000. So you must have a purchase order of 250,000. That, not the purchase order must not be 250,000. It's what you want or need from us. That must be 250,000. And then we're able to help you. The quick ones are supply and deliver and supply. So those are the quick ones that get to be funded. But others, we look at them. If they don't fall under this category, then we put them through under the other category, okay? Same thing with invoicing. Okay, let me quickly go back to the purchase order. So we fund 100% of the purchase order. So let's say that ESCOM issued a 1 million purchase order. So we'll fund that purchase order 100%. We'll pay the supplier, not you, okay? What is required from you, the major thing is the purchase order valid, sorry, I want that word, is a valid purchase order. And we'll verify it. We'll request you to give us a contact of a person in that company where we're able to verify that purchase order through. So we want a verifiable purchase order, okay? Same thing with the invoicing. I'm still going to go there. We also want a verifiable purchase order. So that's the main thing before we request other documents. The main document that we need that determine whether you accepted or rejected is a purchase order that can be verified, okay? So in this model, it's a traditional banking models where you look at your credit scores and everything, right? This one is all the things that I'm presenting are unsecured, one, and number two, they are unsecured and there's no collateral that is needed from you, okay? Even if you are blacklisted, we don't check your blacklist. Only thing that makes you qualify is the purchase order that is valid, is a valid purchase order or a valid invoicing, okay? So the purchase order, sorry, the invoicing let's say you have invoiced Eskom that 1 million, okay? We can only fund 75% of the invoice. Okay, so we can only fund 750,000 of that 1 million. Okay. Let me quickly cover the issues of interest, therefore. Let me start with the purchase order. The interest is between 12 and 15% that they will charge you. Okay. And then for invoice discounting, the same thing. No. For invoice discounting, the interest will be 8% fixed for the first 15 days. So first 15 days is fixed at 8%. And thereafter, from the 16th day to the last day of the month, you are charged a 0.25% interest, okay? So if we calculate those 0.25% interest for the last 16 or 15 days, they are equal to 3.75%. Then plus 8% equal to 11.75%. So roughly for the invoicing will be charged around as 11.75%. We as Imbewu consultant, we charge a fixed consultation fee of 3%. We charge a fixed consultation fee of 3%. So there's no collateral, unsecured. So now the question is then, now do you guys protect your capital? So that 1 million that we have given you, then how do we protect it? Two ways that we protect that our money. One, any amount that is below 5 million. So if you want an amount that is below 5 million, we become co-signatory with you in your business bank account. We don't take over your business bank account, we become co-signatories with you. That's one. And then secondly, we don't take control of your bank account. The control remains with you. And all the transaction that goes into your bank account, we don't interfere with them except that particular invoice number that we have funded or that particular purchase order number that we have funded. Once that purchase order number comes in, and then we step into to claim what is ours, which is capital plus the interest. Okay. So for any amount above 5 million, so from 6 million, there is no maximum amount. So from 6 million, there is no maximum amount that you can ask for. Over and above being a co-signature in your account, they take on a directorship in your CICP documents, right? For the duration of this of the money being with you. So we found up to 60 days. So that's the maximum days that they can be a director, take a directorship position in your company. Thereafter, a silence directorship. Thereafter, once the money is paid, and then they automatically exit the bank account, they exit the directorship. Okay? So those two only fund companies in South Africa and companies that have purchase orders with SOEs. Those are state-owned entities. What do I want to say? The government, anything that has to do with the government, from provincial to national, regional, any tender that comes from there, then that is taken care of. Okay, so let me go to the second part of the thing. So that is only for the company that are based here in South Africa. Okay, so the second one is a trade finance solution. Okay, people who import things or to South Africa, maybe let's say from China or any other country in the world. I'm just making an example from China, or export things. Maybe let's say you export things to Ghana or wherever, African countries or anywhere in the world. So you don't need to use your own cash. You don't need to use your own money. There is a system that is set in place. That system is trade finance solutions. They are financial instruments that are used to carry out those transactions. So if you buy machines from China, or you import gold from DRC Congo, or oil from Nigeria, whatever international transaction that you do, you don't need to pay for your own money. There are monies that are, there's a system that is being used. We call it a trade finance solution system, okay? For the trade finance solution system, the minimum amount is 250,000 US dollars, up to a maximum of 500 million US dollars. Other partners that we have, they have no maximum amount. They can carry out any transaction, okay? So let's assume that you import copper from DRC, Congo, okay? You don't trust the seller. The seller does not trust you either. It might be a scam, it might not be a scam, understand? So to protect yourself, you need to use a financial instrument. For instance, a LC, letter of credit, or a standby letter of credit. So how it works is that it works behind the scene, okay? So your bank, will you ask us to raise a letter of credit or a standby letter of credit with the seller there? So we pay the seller the letter of credit. I'm gonna come back a little bit with how do you pay for it, okay? For now, let me focus on that. So we raise up a letter of credit with the seller, and the seller release the goods to South Africa, and the goods come to you to South Africa. When they arrive at the port of entry in Durban, those goods, is only that time you're able to transfer, to release your money now to pay them for the goods, okay? How the financial instruments work, I'm gonna use an example when you are buying a house. Anyway, so what you need to do, you need to have the money, a fee to pay for that particular instruments, okay? Some of our partners is fixed at 5% of the face value of the amount of the product that you are buying, okay? Or others, there's between 1 and 7% of the face value of the fee. That must be paid upfront, okay? So the fee of the instrument need to be paid upfront so that they will able to raise an instrument for you. Let's say you pay that up 5% upfront, then there is an instrument, the goods get released for you to South Africa, it arrives in South Africa. Only then you pay for those goods when you have received them and you are happy with the goods, the copper, then you transfer that money to the to the bank, sorry, not to the seller, because it's already been paid to the seller. Once it's transferred, then the instrument ceases to exist. I said I want to use an example with when you are buying a house with a bond. So there is a seller who sells the house to you as a buyer, and you are happy that you want to buy that house. That house is 5 million, but you don't have 5 million cash to buy that house. So the seller does not trust you. So you go to the bank, say, bank, this house I want is 5 million, and I want you to pay for it. And I'm going to pay you on a monthly basis for that 5 million, okay? So what the bank does, okay, they check you out and approve you. When you are approved, the bank won't pay the seller that 5 million until you pay the fees that are involved in the purchase of the house, like transfer fees, registration fees, fees for lawyers. Let's say they are 300,000. You must pay that 300,000 upfront before the buyer, sorry, before the bank pay the 5 million to the seller and the seller deliver the house to you or the house be transferred to you. So it works exactly the same with financial instrument, okay? So it does not matter where anywhere in the world, they will take care of it for you. Okay, Mr. Kabe, am I still clear?
Yeah, you're still clear. Because you just switch off your thing. Thanks so much. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. There was some disturbance of the offender. Okay, so other instrument, for instance, when you are buying goods from China, there is what you call a supplier credit facility that is available, okay? that amount is up to 10 million US dollar. So if you are an importer from China, we've got a supply credit facility that is available for you up to 10 million US dollars. But in that particular one, you must pay 30% you must pay a deposit of 30%. And then they take care of the 70%. How it works is that, let's say you want to import goods from China and those goods cost R1 million. So you must pay 30% upfront, which is 300,000. So once you pay this 300,000, they will go to China for you and pay that 1 million for you, and the goods will be released to come to South Africa. And then you go to the port of entry, wherever the goods are, you receive them, and you are happy, and you take those goods. This particular one, since it's a loan facility, is a revolving loan facility. You don't pay that money. You take your goods. You will have agreed beforehand whether you are going for a 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or 120 days agreement with them to pay that remaining 70%. Okay, of those goods, so that credit facility is available. So now, with my experience in this thing with these two offerings of purchase order and invoice discounting invoice and the trade finance solution, then I saw which is still not. There are still people who don't fall under these categories. They don't have purchase orders, so therefore automatically they don't follow the invoicing. And then they are not trading, international trading. They don't need instrument. They're here in South Africa. Maybe a person have a tender from Transnet, a 5-year tender, to offer services. Okay, maybe to fix ujantshi with Thumbela, right? That one sometimes under purchase order funding, it can be rejected on the basis that they don't have a person who can a specialist of some sort who can see that you've done the work right, and Transnet will pay you for that work, because what might happen is that Transnet might come back and say, no, listen, we can't, you didn't do the job well, so we won't pay the invoice. Go back and do your job right, and then now we're gonna be suffering on that in that situation. Those guys, they weren't able to have their money back. Now we extend the period, you understand? So then I found that there are people who has contracts, 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, whatever the period is of that particular contract, but it doesn't fall under these categories that I've mentioned so far, right? So then I found a partner who helps with that, right? Currently, I've got a business that I've put in for such people. I'm trying to remember the name of this thing, whatever that I wanted to mention in farming, whatever. Anyway, it's not important. So those ones, they look at the fact, are you able to service your debt? Are you able to fulfill? Is there cash flows that are moving in and out of your account as a business? Because we know that the major banks would have rejected you, even if you've got all those things in place and all of those things. Because of your credit record, they will have rejected you. So they won't reject you on those bases. As long as you've been able to service the loan, they can see the movement, the cash flows in and out of your business account, and then they've got this contract of whatever many years. Yes, so they will able to fund you. So we've got these 3 or 4 funding models that are available to you guys, who some of you might have been rejected by banks, not qualifying for whatever reason that is there. Now, all these people that I'm presented to you today, number one is unsecured, and no collateral is needed from you. And thirdly, they don't grew up on your credit record, whether you are blacklisted or not. But it helps. What I've seen, it helps to tell us upfront, to tell me upfront, would listen. For instance, maybe at FNB, I've defaulted on my car and all that stuff, right? So therefore, you need to go make an arrangement with FNB. We listen, FNB. I know that I've defaulted for 2 months in my car, so I want to make an arrangement to pay. So that letter is enough. So when they pick that up, that at FNB, you have to, they will ask you, have you made arrangements? So I'm telling you ahead of time that you need, so that you can able to make arrangement with the bank and have that letter in hand. Yeah, so basically that's that, ladies and gentlemen, is purchase orders, invoicing fall under one category only in South Africa. And then as trade finance solutions, our partners are all over the world, Philippines, UK, Dubai. They've partnered with banks from the US, Europe, Asia, Middle East, Dubai to issue those particular instruments. And then the last part of my presentation, for those people who don't fall under these categories, this particular bank, though it's an international bank, it has its footing as well here in South Africa. They've been around here in South Africa for 4 years, and they are the ones who are looking at what we call the township economy. Well, I also call a rural economy in terms of farming and all those things that the funds are available and that, yeah. I think, Mr. Club, I'll stop it right here. And thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity to present.
Well, thank you so much, Nondaba, for presentation. There are questions definitely of some people who would like to know more about how to reach you, as well as where to start. Maybe if you can kindly just give that access to you to have people contact you direct. Maybe just give us as to how do people reach you and all of those details.
Okay, thank you, sir. I will share the other things, but you can find us on my cell phone number is 078 505 8485. 078 505 8485. So there you can find mostly on WhatsApp and also a direct call there. And then you can also find us, our email is info@Imbewu Consultant with T, not S, with T, consultant.co.za. Info@Imbewu Consultant as one word, .co.za. And our website as well, you will find us on website, www.imbewuconsultant.co.za. imbewuconsultant.co.za. I will share this.
Yeah, please share that on the chat box as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I have got one of my guests who has been driving from Wanongoma, umile manje on the highway somewhere, waiting to present. So, but I'm gonna ask you, Nhlengethwa, to just hang for a few minutes, if you can. Please bear with us. I know you are standing there by the garage, but just 2 minutes for anybody who may have a question for Mr. Zondi. David Nhlapo, I see your hand very quickly. Just unmute, my brother. Mr. Nhlapo.
Mr. Tlaba, Sanbonan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Zondi. A quick one. So from the time of having all the documentation ready, yeah, how long does it take for the funding to be released?
My apologies for not saying that. For purchase order and invoicing is 48 to 72 hours, 2 to 3 days. 48 to 72 hours of supplying us with documents. That is for purchase order and invoicing. 48 hours to 72 hours, 2 to 3 days. And then for trade finance solutions, 10 days. 10 days. Okay. And then for the other one, it operate more like the bank. So a week, 5 days, 5 working days, if all the if all the documents have been submitted. So for 48 to 72 hours, purchase order and invoicing, trade finance solution, 10 days, 10 days, other partners is 15 days. And then the other one is, let's say, 7 working days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anybody else with a question? Mr. Zondi, please put your details there. I have asked that everybody, as you engage Mr. Zondi, whether you are emailing him, just make sure that you copy us. It helps us to keep track of how many people are getting assisted, as well as just to know who is really engaging. It's gonna be very helpful for you to do that. So any other person with a question before we move over to my next guest? Okay. Danaso, probably, do you find cross-border? Maybe if I may ask that question, because Danaso from Zimbabwe, I know that's a question you're going to ask Danaso, but you can always unmute and ask, but I needed to emphasize this. Do you find cross-border? Mr. Zondi, do you find other countries in the SADC region?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You find them, right?
All over the world.
All over the world. Oh, sure.
Wait, for purchase order. Sorry. For purchase order and invoicing is only South African countries, eh?
Yeah.
So it's only South Africa.
Okay.
Then the
Purchase
rest cross-border anywhere in the world.
Thank you so much. Danaso, have I gone ahead of you? What did you want to ask?
Yeah, I think it's that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
All right, it's okay. So thank you so much, Mrs. Shaba. But I also wanted to check on the papers that are actually needed, especially for us, the cross borders, or for us other people outside Africa. The papers that are actually needed, specifically which papers are actually needed.
Go ahead, Mr. Zondi.
Listen, remember that this is not a South African thing. It's our partners are based outside South Africa. So the paper that we need, I will share here on the group as well. But the other one is the contract, whether it's a sales agreement, purchase agreement with the seller. That's the major one. Thereafter, they will ask for normal paper, KYC, and all. So the papers of which country, that's not important. The banks and those partners are not South Africa. They are international partners. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Zondi. We'll end it there. What is very important for me, at least, is the fact that you are able to help people in Shatwaba listed with credit bureau. Sales with their last name is ITC. If only they can just come clean and tell you upfront, as well as ensure that they are clear with what exactly do they need. You've got Mr. Zondi's contact details. Please ensure that you're able to ensure that you engage, get funded, be responsible with your money. Thank you so much, Nondaba. please, you can stay on.
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
Just a quick one before you go, sir.
Yeah.
All the guys from this platform, when you reach to us, please highlight the fact that you are from Kukuletu Taba, the Omnotho was a platform, right? So that you will be able to track.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciated that. Just highlight that from Amandla Omnotho, right? So that you can trace and track. We want to ensure that at least that traceability. Appreciate it, Mr. Zondi. Now we're moving over to the professional in the space of agriculture, agribusiness, Mr. Dumisani Nhlengethwa, a seasoned, recognized expert in farmer enterprise development, holding national diploma, community extension with MUT Mangosuthu, and Bachelor of Technology degree in agricultural management with Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, over 16 years experience working in the field, facilitating and implementing result-oriented farming programs, both in the private and public sectors across the country. He started as an extension officer on Nongoma, and has moved up the sort of like the career and dealing with a whole lot of things around agrarian ecosystems, and later joining Bushle Farmers Academy and many other such institutions. Mr. Nhlengethwa is a respected program facilitator that promotes meaningful participation of the PDIs in the agricultural value chain, leading various support programs with a number of stakeholders, Sasol on barley farmer development with Heineken, Royal Bafokeng, Nedbank, raw potato program with McCain. That's just part of his previous experience. He's currently with the Tebeni municipality and the agribusiness division. I asked him, Mkhaya Wamlo, to say, we are working together and we're going to continue working together. We are part of what we call the Nongoma We Want, Salankosi development. Is going to feature prominently going forward on a number of issues that we deal with, especially around the rural chamber of commerce and industry. Baba Nhlengethwa, ngiyabonga kakhulu mfowethu ukuthi you've had to step aside from the highway and honor us and just present to us what you have for us today. There's so much in your bag. Let me hand over to you, sir.
Nonkosi, ngokukhulu ukuyithoba ngithanda ukubonga nokubingelela for me, it's a great honor to be part of this engagement, and I will try by all means just to present, critical issues, especially in the context of so this opportunity actually gives us a clear view on how we can actually emphasize investment to addressing hunger on its own and investing in food systems, critical long-term economic investments. And, these are essential first steps towards achieving broader developmental goals. But unfortunately, what we have seen over the years in Africa, which has always been my introduction, is that agriculture, despite that it contributes over 37% to the continent GDP, it remains one of the one of the sectors that receives less attention from the policy intervention and also from funding. So I always start by saying agriculture in Africa should be driving, real investment. I mean, this is the largest employer, in the continent, and since our continent is the youngest in the world, so agriculture offers an opportunity for us, to develop the industry. But the under investment, which is I regard it as a chronic, disorder that we have in Africa, actually limits our potential in agriculture. Because if you look at the land that we have in Africa, more than 60% of the world's arable land is in Africa. But that land is degraded, which is more specific in the rural economy, because that's our forecast today. So if you look at Emakhaya, you find that umhlaba has been abandoned. Wood encroachment, bush encroachment is wiping, native flora and fauna. So this is one of the key issues that I've seen in the rural areas, that except that our farmers are excluded from the mainstream, but they are also excluded from policies that tries to prioritize rural areas. We talk about land care that would ensure that the grazing pastures, they remain, they remain in good state. Like currently, we have seen that in most of the rural areas already, farmers are moving away from their places to search for grass for their animals. So this nomadic pastoralism that used to happen back in the days, it's something that we are also noting now. And even the water infrastructure, when we talk about dams, Nonkosi and colleagues, we have seen that our budget has not been allocated enough to resuscitate the rural dams. Rural dams are the backbone of rural economy, because they would allow Abo Mama to practice, communal gardening. They will allow livestock farmers to have their cattle, their goats, accessing water, even small businesses who are making blocks. So we have noticed that the budget for water dams has been dwindling. Actually, we don't even know which department nationally that sits with that budget. So when it comes to the exclusion of agriculture, it's well noted, and it's unfortunate that if you look at our sector as a whole in South Africa, I mean, we are the #1 exporter. We are on the top 40 in terms of the export, of the countries that are exporting the agricultural goods all over the world. But unfortunately, the 251 billion rand that the industry generates through the export, you then tend to ask yourself, who is benefiting from that revenue if the national budget allocation to agriculture is less than 1%? So then it's a big question. Who then invest in agriculture if our government is not investing enough in agriculture? And if you look at some of the countries in the Sahel, your Burkina Faso, your Niger, your Mali, and other countries like your Guinea-Bissau, they have been consistent in allocating 10% of their national budget to agriculture. And you can see what is happening in Burkina Faso currently, buying more tractors, bringing that offensive agriculture. It's a result of enough budget that is being allocated to agriculture. As we speak, Guinea-Bissau is #1 in terms of the GDP. I mean, the GDP contribution of agriculture, and you then tend to ask yourself, if South Africa was investing enough in agriculture, where we would be in terms of people benefiting from the sector. So it's very unfortunate that whenever I start to look at agriculture, the first thing that always appears is that there is underinvestment in agriculture in Africa as a whole, but particularly South Africa. Because when you talk about inequality, Nonkosi, one of the things that you have to highlight is that there are some imbalances in terms of allocation of resources to the sector, and it remains as a truth that our sector our country is a country of two agricultures, where you find that we've got small scale farmers which have been called emerging farmers like 30 years ago. And the unfortunate part, Nonkosi, before I move on, is that when you look during the apartheid regime, over 6% was allocated to agriculture. And if you look back in the days when we have a Zulu government in KZN, dams were prioritized, grazing pastures were prioritized, people were practicing farming in their area. So we have seen that we have shifted away from investing or allocating funds in the rural areas, which is very unfortunate. Because if you talk about entrepreneurship, which it's an expert that I would want to bring into this session, is that people will always regard entrepreneurship as a new word, but actually entrepreneurship it's ancient, Nonkosi, because when you kumbula abokhokho bethu, they were real innovators. They discovered a number of things using stones in there as our tools, discovering some of the traditional medicine to heal their cattle, using ofumhlonyane and other traditional remedies. So it actually tells that if we want to actually expand our meaningful participation in agriculture, I want just to focus on these three things as my main focus. One, we need to take a direction of unbundling the agricultural value chain. Because most of the time when people talk about agriculture, they just think about farming. But there is a lot in the value chain. If you look at the value chain for poultry, there are about 8 segments that you can explore. You can start by producing maize, producing soya for feed, rearing parent stock to produce fertilized eggs, hatching chicks, producing broilers, processing. So the agricultural value chain, it's very diverse, Nonkosi and colleagues. And my plea is that we need to unbundle the agricultural value chain. How? By distinguishing the agricultural value chain into 3 streams. The first one will be the upstream side, which we haven't seen our black farmers participating in that stream, whereby we generate inputs, Nonkosi. Actually, we're producing our inputs. If you look at some of the multinational, corporations, they are vertically integrated. They produce chickens. They've got the feed company in-house. They've got the vaccine company in-house. And it's a question that I always ask myself, that if our government, or if South Africa knew that we will be driving a transformation agenda, why we don't have a state-owned entity that is producing animal feed? Why we don't have a state-owned entity that is producing fertilizer? So the big concern that we have is that even though food remains a fundamental right, Nonkosi, but we have seen that 99% of food is coming through the private mechanisms, which is very unfortunate if we say it's a fundamental human right that is enshrined in our constitution and in a number of international laws. But food remains a private commodity. So by investing in the upstream side of agriculture, then we will see our state being able to even produce some basic tools that our farmers would need, even sponsoring some of the SMEs to use technology and to produce some machineries that are needed in the whole value chain. So that's my drive, actually, that we are trying to push with some institutions to say, even our curriculum in the institutions of higher learning should be focusing, on pushing our students to become entrepreneurs by creating those solutions that are needed by farmers or that are needed in the whole value chain. If you think about a basic tool, Nonkosi, e-Geja, and it's unfortunate that our farmers will have to pay imali enkulu just to buy that basic tool. So we need to push entrepreneurs to also become innovators, coming up with the tools, coming up with softwares and fintechs and a number of things that can be stimulated in the upstream side. And then when we look at the midstream side, which a majority of our people are engaged in, which is production, that's where the problem starts. Because if you are a farmer, you are actually blending a number of materials and you are managing the risk to ensure that you've got a very good product. This is where we actually see our focus as a nation, that if you think about agriculture, you must become a farmer. And unfortunately, that majority of what we even produce in terms of food doesn't reach our stomach. It's wasted. And that's another business opportunity for entrepreneurs to say, how can we reduce food losses and waste in agriculture? Because it actually accounts for over $1 trillion in terms of the amount of waste that is created through agriculture. So there are a lot of opportunities that we can actually explore in the whole value chain. And if we move to the last part of the value chain, which is the downstream side, we have noticed that when we talk about access to market, farmers would plant and look for market. They won't look for market first and then they plant what the market requires. So it actually forces us to say, let's have entrepreneurs, nonkos and colleagues who would just focus on market access, because it's unfortunate that farmers will lose their crop because they haven't done, proper planning. They haven't done your demand forecasting. So if we can just unbundle the system to say, if you are in agriculture, you are not just a farmer out there, confined in the soil and applying fertilizer and stuff, but you can also be an entrepreneur who can solve market access problems, whereby you assist farmers to create what I call demand forecasting. So from January to December, we know that some foodstuffs would be required in large quantities. So you can also help farmers to synchronize their production plan so that they can respond to a projected demand. So there are a number of opportunities that exist in the downstream side, because if you look at the current state of farmers planting cabbage. Why cabbage? Because it's an easy entry crop. So as an entrepreneur, you can look for market, you can get offtakes, even if you are not a farmer, and then you engage farmers to say, guys, you can plant this, I've got a market for you. So going back to the rural economy, this is what we need to do to say, how can we invest in infrastructure in the rural setting that could even attract investment? You talk about storage facilities, there is a booming opportunity of avocado in China. So if China is learning to eat avocado, and in the next 10 years, if that is successful, China will be the largest, consumer of avocado. So what is it that we can do as rural people to ensure that we actually plan for this projected boom? Is to invest in water infrastructure, is to invest in roads. So there are a lot of opportunities, Nonkosi, that we need to explore in the reserves. Why I call our rural areas reserves, because that's where we were pushed when land was taken away from the natives. So these reserves, you find them, they don't have water. They are, they don't have proper infrastructure. People are abandoned. So we need to craft a way, Nonkoso. So what is the way forward in terms of resuscitating the rural economy by, prioritizing agriculture? One is to have all the districts having the master plan. So if you talk about the agro-processing master plan at the national level, that sounds very good, but at a high level. So we need to cascade that into a regional, approach where we've got mechanism like your DDM, your district development plan, to say in Zululand, what is the focus area when you talk about agriculture? In Umzinyati, what is the focus area when you talk about agriculture for the next 10 years? So it's the same principle that we can use, Nonkosi, like your mayor's economy in China, where they allow the local government to drive the real economic development, rather than just centralizing everything on the top-down approach. So if we can have that in the rural areas, you will find that places like Nongoma would have their master plan for the next 10 years in agriculture. So what does this mean? It means that every local government that would be voted in will have to align to what has been, embedded on the master plan. Because at times we see people coming into office, they make promises. Some they would just declare success by, presenting 10 wheelbarrows and 5x5 gardens, and then they take that as a success. That's not a success. So we need to be aggressive when we talk about agriculture. We need to be intentional to transform the economy. Your one home, one garden projects, those are very good projects just for subsistence farming. But when we talk about the booming industry in the UAE for red meat, what is it that we can do as people in Umzinyati, people in Itopo, to actually prepare ourselves for that market? So unbundling agriculture is the first thing, and then the second thing would be to have the agricultural master plan for all the districts, because sometimes to centralize things and say KZN should be producing sugar canes, I think we are applying a blanket approach, colleagues. But to say what are the commodities that can do well in Mkhanyakude? How can we allocate resources in Mkhanyakude that we would see 50 hectares of avocado, or maybe having feedlots that can even supply abattoirs? Because it's unfortunate, Nonkosi, that majority of even beef that we eat, it comes from feedlots, and the majority of people that are supplying feedlots are the minorities. It's unfortunate that when you're looking at the total head of South Africa for cattle, it's around 14 million, and 40% of that, it sits with the communal land. So the question is, how can we stimulate the participation of the communal livestock farmers in the mainstream? Because they've got the cattle, they've got good breeds, maybe they can be improved there and there. So it's time for us to be intentional to say, if we've got a school nutrition program, why schools are not, eating beef? Why schools are not eating, goat meat? Because we have those things in our rural setting. So if you talk about the 10 billion rand budget that is allocated to school nutrition, we need to find a way of making, a portion of that budget being accessible by the local people. So I think for me, those are key things that I wanted to share. To say maybe next time we will have to find a way to say, how do we create these master plans in the district level? How do we, mobilize funding? My brother, funding. How can we even mobilize private equity? Because sometimes if we can wait for public sector to assist us, maybe assist figure. So I think that is my contribution. One, let's unbundle the value chain. Let's focus on the upstream and invest on the midstream side. Secondly, let's have the district agriculture master plans that will talk or that will resonate to the national, master plans, the number of master plans that we have. So it will allow us to say, in the next 10 years, where do we want to see Unongoma? Where do we want to see Umzinyati? Where do we want to see Umgungundlovu? I think even like in the local government, I have to commend the local government, Abo Maspala. We have seen that these days they are actively visible in agriculture. They are supporting our farmers, and actually I foresee a state whereby the local government will be exceeding budget allocation compared to the provincial and national governments, which is a very good thing for me to see Abo Maspala, participating in this, which has been previously called as an unfunded mandate. It's unfortunate. How can something that is very critical for economic development can be called unfunded mandate for the local government? But we are happy to see that the wheel is changing, is turning, and we're looking forward to see agriculture being prioritized. Even in my conclusion, Nonkosi, being prioritized even Gumik. We've got the municipal infrastructural grants. Most of the time, Nonkosi, we see building of roads, building of halls. We haven't seen SME stores. We haven't seen farming projects being prioritized through the MIG grant. So we hope that moving forward, agriculture will be prioritized through funding, through meaningful participation in the mainstream, and unbundling of the value chain. It's our priority, and I think I should stand here for now. Thanks.
Siyabonga kakhulu Mr. Nhlengethwa. Sibonga kakhulu ukuthi uyivale with a positive there, which is what I was looking forward to hearing. Ukuthi Thumbela udaba lwama localities, are they really participating is there a real change that's happening there? Because esikubonayo manje, mhlawumbe mina ngize ngithi because sinama local government elections next year, kulabo abafuna ukungenelela ama-elections, because I know here kunabantu abafuna ukungena kwi-politics. Esicela basize mase bengenile ngoba le knee-jerk approach eyenzekalayo each time uma sikhuluma nge-agriculture ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya is not helping. Kuletha amapiki namafosholo and just celebrate that is not helping. I think we khane kahle kakhulu to give us the holistic view of what are real challenges kwi-agricultural space. Engicabanga ukuthi wonke umuntu okhona la uzwile Thumbela ngoba that's exactly where we need to be. That's why we started the Rural Chamber of Commerce ezobe ihamba kakhulu next year. Move to a space of ensuring ukuthi all these things okhuluma ngazo ziyenzeka, because I think mina where I'm seated, as well as from the experience of 31 years being an active South African, seeing what has been happening, I think we need to take it upon ourselves now and be well organized on the ground so that we can challenge the system and make this whole dream and the things we've been sharing realizable. So siyabonga kakhulu Thumbela for your short and concise sharing on this very important space, agriculture. I would like to give a few people abangase babe nama questions who would like to ask Mr. Nhlengethwa, engage him a bit on what he has said. Hopefully there would be some questions that and comments that you would like to make on your part. Thanks, Brother Charles. I see you from the States. It's nice to see you after a while. We owe each other some talk, my dear brother. So, questions and colleagues and comments? This gentleman is a teacher. He teaches and people listen, and they find out that there's really no question to ask because he spoke so well, right? If you don't have any questions, I don't want us to hold us for long unless there is a hand I'm missing before I ask Mr. Nhlengethwa to just give us his parting shot based on everything he has said, and then we close the session. Thumbela, I think people listened attentively, and it's all recorded, and it's beautiful. Actually, there is other things, the post-harvest technologies that we need to employ, because we can't use archaic methods of farming as if we are still in the old ages somewhere years gone by during the 21st century, as well as indaba yoku preserver ukudla, which you touched on, which is very important for me. At Johannesburg, as an example, the Johannesburg Fresh Produce Market, it's currently a close to 9 billion rand annual turnover industry. And up to 10% of the food gets wasted. You can imagine what is 10% of 9 billion, right? And that's huge. That food gets wasted because remember, you are dealing with perishable stuff. And yet we have a situation in our country where 14.5 million people go to bed hungry. They live on less than adequate food, and et cetera, et cetera. So these are issues that we need to deal with, and as well as farm our own areas, especially as African natives. It's very important to emphasize this because currently we've got a situation in the US. We know AGOA, we may no longer be part of it. As you know, the shaking by President Trump right throughout the world, and the spotlight that we're having as South Africa, and the fact that people have been exporting. It's not been black people, black farmers particularly. It's been white, specifically Afrikaner farmers who are unfortunately are going to be suffering because of the very same AfriForum, which has been part and parcel of ensuring that, bapenda kabi South Africa. And these are issues, sadly, which are going to affect, because a lot of workers are black in the whole value chain. They'll be affected, definitely. So these are some of the political economic issues. Ekufanele ukuthi singakuvumi ukuthi ugibela indoda yomlungu njengoba yake yenza kuqala yathi if ningafuni ukuyiphatha kahle sizoncisha ukudla. So those are things that we have to really try and avoid. We can't have ourselves risking the whole country and have only a few people supporting South Africa, because if they strike tomorrow or they choose to poison dams and food and whatever tomorrow, we are dead in water, So we don't have to rely that much there on colleagues. And lastly, I think the point of us having the dams, our municipalities, our localities creating dams, except very old dams. And these are issues which I think we need to take up. Thumbela, your parting shot as we close.
Siyabonga nonkosi. Mhlawumbe nje ukugcizelela ukuthi the African Union, it's very clear we agenda 2063 to say how we can drive the regional integration of agriculture through our agri-parks. And I would also invite our colleagues here to look at this agri-parks system, which actually facilitates the aggregation of produce. Because we have seen that the individualism focused in agriculture won't bring us meaningful growth that we need. So aggregation is the future as far as the agri-parks is concerned. And then secondly, we need to unbundle the value chain. That is just my emphasis, course. Let's have students who will not just study to become extension officers and give people advice, but students who will create the tools. You have already mentioned EAGO coming to an end. Maybe it would be a good thing for the poultry industry. We don't know. But we have seen what the industry is back on its feet. Currently, Rainbow is declaring profits. Astral is making good progress. So it's another industry that we need to invest in as South Africa to ensure that participation in Yabansundo, I think I am for ukugcizelela ukuthi let's not treat agriculture as uposindlala, but as it treat as into umnotho. Elokugcina umbuzo lo homework engishare natsonke ukuthi if ngempela our industry or our sector generates $13 billion in export, and our public sector is investing less than 1% in the sector, then the question, who is investing in agriculture? I think once we get the answer there, you would see why agriculture has been made as something that looks primitive, while it's actually not. It's actually, a lucrative sector. So I think it's a high time, Nonkosi, that we invest in agriculture. We ensure that we've got research institutions, because currently what is happening, in my conclusion, the multinational companies that are selling seeds, Nonkosi, they are entering our country. They are investing billions of rands in seed production, in research and development. When was the last time you heard about public research stations that were in different districts? So if we're not investing in agriculture as a public sector, then the private sector would invest in agriculture, and food would continue to become a private commodity. So I am reachable through Facebook. I'm Dumisani, Nhlengethwa. You can also send me an email, kasizota@gmail.com, and then we can engage further on agri-parks, on how you can turn the agribusiness property investment, that portfolio. I'm also there just to advise people on how they can make their own private agri-parks, because agri-parks won't be only implemented by government. Also, the private business have an opportunity to build agri-parks and rent it out to farmers. So it's another opportunity that is exciting. that I'm willing to share with people who are looking to invest in agriculture, not as farmers, but as property investors. So I think mhlawumbe ngaba yilokho engingagcina ngakho Nkosi. Siyabonga.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Thumbela. He is not lost to the platform. He will be part of our rural chamber as well as the what you call conference next year, Amandla Omnotho Grand Economic Conference, and he's going to be coming time and again to advise. So please rest assured of that. Ngiyabonga kakhulu Thumbela and everybody else who has really been part of this session today. Please get in touch with Mr. Zondi as based on the contacts he has shared, and please get in touch with us regarding everything else that we're going to be doing. Go to Amandla Omnotho TV on YouTube. That's where we upload all our talks in case you may have missed it or you want to go re-listen. May you have a great week ahead and be successful. Thank you.